Good evening. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the Gettysburg Area School District. Board of Directors meetings and committee meetings are open to the public but are not public meetings. All school district residents who wish to make public comment should sign in prior to the start of the meeting and request to speak during citizens' participation. Excuse me. School district residents wishing to speak to the board shall do so only during citizen participation section of the meeting. The board will not tolerate public outbursts or disruptions, nor will tolerate comments made outside of the citizens' participation portion of the meeting. Public comment is welcome, and all issues will be referred to the appropriate board committee or administrator. Comments will be summarized in the official board minutes, which will be made available by contacting the business office. Please take a moment and silence any of the electronic devices. Brooke is absent, but all members of the board are present this evening. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to start tonight's meeting off under 3.1. It's a budget presentation from Belinda.
Good evening, Board. I'm going to provide you an update as to the current 25-26 budget compilation. Revenue slide has not changed from the previous board meeting. We were looking at the expenditures first and foremost before we presented to you a revenue projection to balance the budget. So the next slide, of course, is our expense. This is updated in terms of additional expenditure reductions that we did. I'll move to the next slide first and then maybe come back to this one. So you could see our budget was updated as of the comparison of March 17th and then for this evening of April 7th. And what exactly changed? Revenue did not change. Again, as I mentioned, we'll look at that in terms of our next budget meeting to determine balancing the budget. Our expenditures went down approximately $725,000. which then left our unreconciled gap to be $3.7 million versus $4.5 million. We plan to continue to propose use of the PSERS commitment fund balance of $345,902. That hasn't changed. The unassigned use of fund balance, of course, does change. As you may recall, that the unassigned portion is a percent of expenditures. So if expenditures drop or expenditures increase, the unassigned use of fund balance will also change proportionally. So therefore, our total available funds to offset the $3.7 million is $1.9 million. So the gap minus available funds that we need to find and we need to reconcile mostly with revenue is $1.8 million. And this will maintain a 6% unassigned fund balance at the end of the year according to policy of $4.7 million. Again, we've reviewed the expenditures relatively pretty thorough. Some changes on the next slide. You can see what we're up against next moving forward. We're going to need to look at revenue funding for the second year of ACTI. This budget does have a second year of funding of ACTI, and like other districts in the county, our commitment to ACTI and the students are well needed. So we also need to look at revenue funding for personnel, health care, cost of services, and then just inflation for this budget. So between personnel, health care, and ACTI is the main reasons our budget is increasing. We're going to look still at the county real estate assessment data. So we receive an update from the county relatively soon. So the next budget meeting hearing, we will have an update as to what that assessment data looks like for new changes and or reductions of assessments. As I mentioned before, the reductions from last budget presentation to this one is approximately $725,000, and those were in areas of pretty much the facility services, utility cost, some reduction of IU services, but overall it was lawn care, electric, natural gas, water, sewer reductions that brought that amount down. Again, we joint procure many of our services. So once the rates are known, we're able to take a look at our estimates and feel comfortable with the reduction. Next, I'm sorry, Paula, go back one slide. So moving forward, like at this point, the reductions are the reductions, unless there's any other expenditure reductions as directed by the school board. At this point, moving forward, we're going to look at the revenue portion of the budget unless there's additional expenditure reductions that the board would like us to see address. We will, again, continue to monitor and update the revenue, but as you'll see tonight, I think the possible point that we're at is we're trying to find a shortfall of $1.8 million. As for timeline, our next budget meeting, April 21st, we're going to review the proposed final. At that meeting, we will propose to you what a tax increase will look like to help offset that $1.8 million. Any other questions or discussion points at this point? I mean, welcome to, but this is what the timeline would be.
Well, and I think that the April 21st might be the 22nd. I think that Monday is a holiday, so I think that the board meeting is a Tuesday that week.
Yeah, thank you.
So it would be 22nd of April.
Perfect.
Belinda, is there any chance by that period of time that we might have a little bit more of a clue as state subsidy? I know I think you're planning on being level funded from last year.
I am. I'm using the current year estimates that the state has proposed. I am not banking on additional money from the state. Like I mentioned before in the previous presentation, there's no contingency funds, there's no additional tax equity funds. We are at the point, Gettysburg Area School District is at the point that any changes in enrollment, any changes in just the deliverance of the healthcare system is a change in basic education subsidy for us. There's no large increases coming towards us for basic ed nor special ed.
Gotcha. Yeah. I know sometimes PASBO and some of the other organizations that we're a part of makes recommendations, and they've got some inside information. And I know you mentioned ACTI out there, and I read an article in the Gettysburg Times, and the Fairfield superintendent was quoted as, we're 5-6 years down the road of making something happen there. Now, I don't know, maybe Jeremy has an update or Dr. Perrin or someone, but it'd be interesting to learn, what's happening there. It seems like from what I'm reading, a number of districts, not just in our local area, are starting to do things like upgrading their own traditional industrial arts shop programs and things like that. And in Adams County here, since we haven't expanded ACTI. Dr. Perrin, is there anything happening in that regard? And what are we looking to do towards, when you mentioned adding some revenue for ACTI? I know last year, I think we did 1%, like most of the other districts.
I think most districts continue to, bolster some of their own high school programs as well as because we obviously have career and tech ed programs in our high school that aren't part of ACTI. So there are districts doing that along with trying to make a better countywide system to be more like other counties in the state. I would say that any comments about that it might be several years down the road. I mean, that's what we're planning for. I mean, it almost better be several years down the road because the 1% we're doing each year into the budget is going to take us 4 years to get where we could pay our portion anyways. So if we continue to build 1% each year, we would be ready probably about year 4 to kind of pay what our obligation would be, at least our percentage for Gettysburg. Short of that, then you simply have to utilize funds from other capital budgets until you're able to fill the rest of the gap with structural revenue from what we're trying to do. So that's really what the county districts are trying to do right now.
Thank you.
I have a quick question about you mentioning the expenditure cuts being predominantly from things like utilities and other lawn care and things like that. Just keeping utilities in mind or services like that, is that something at this point that is pretty locked in with the rate that we have, given how we get those services, or is that open to changing more one way or the other?
I don't, at this point, I believe it's locked in for the rates that we have. I don't believe it's going to change largely down. at all from what these reductions are. So I think we're pretty secure moving forward.
My brain at this point is just hoping that things wouldn't change the other direction, just given like the stability of things in general. But that's
Rates are increasing, just
Right.
like everything else that are
Right.
increasing. So, again, one of the benefits of having the fund balance, anything residual from the prior year goes into the fund balance for calculation of the budget the following year. So any large spikes in any particular area, for example, special education, would be pulling from fund balance if the budget doesn't necessarily account for it. One thing I would like to share, just the Adams County business officials just recently did a little survey on how much special education cost has risen since 1920 to 2023-24. And looking at our data, we were a 30% increase. So, and we're not any different from any other district in the area.
Just from 2020.
Just in 2020.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
I thought I heard you say 1920, so I was just making
No.
sure people were aware that that was a 30%
Yes.
rise just from 2020 and not from the Industrial Revolution.
No.
Thanks.
Sorry.
great. Thank you.
You said about any other cuts basically directed by the board. Is there anywhere else, Belinda, that you see that we could possibly look at that we may be, that we could possibly cut?
Sure. There are some areas. It is not a lot of expense, but the board may or may not be aware. But I will share with you that the district does make contributions to local community organizations such as the Gettysburg Fire Company, the Cashtown Fire Company, and of course GAEF, which is the Gettysburg Area Education Foundation. So those contributions that we have set aside year after year can be viewed. They could be increased, decreased, or removed completely. Like I said, it's not a lot of funds. We contribute $5,000 to Gettysburg Fire Company, $900 to Cashtown, as well as the GAEF is $25,000 a year for director expense. Other areas of a reduction, we are a service industry, and the largest part of our budget is salaries and benefits, and everything else is subjective to, the actual reality of cost increases.
Yeah, it basically becomes the Groundhog Day discussion. Each time that we go through a budget, there's a very, very small percentage that we actually have a significant amount of control over in terms of like supplies and those kinds of things. And we've held supply budgets equivalent to what the actual values were in 2016. So we've really kind of controlled the things that we can control, the things that are kind of outside of our control, that the costs that go up significantly each year, of course, are the health care. And obviously we have contracts that increase each year that we have those commitments as well.
You mentioned a couple things. So the fire department was one at 5,000.
Yes.
Cashtown was at 900.
900.
And GAEF was 25.
Correct.
What do the 25 that we're given GAEF, what is that? I mean, the other ones are donations. Is that a donation as well, or what is that?
It is a donation to the foundation, and it goes towards their operational expense, mostly their director.
So what exactly do they do for us?
So I can speak to that. I'm
Please.
on that board. So the GAEF, the Education Foundation, is predominantly there to support school programming, initiatives through the PTA. It's all money that goes back towards kids and programs in the school district.
So we put 25,000 in and we get 25,000 back? I'm just trying to understand.
I would say, we can certainly ask Todd for more of a breakdown of like what has been happening throughout the given semesters of the school year. But yeah, I think when I'm thinking back to reports of what is being funded and what programs are being run, right now there's a lot of collaboration with the PTOs, particularly at the elementary level, but there is a lot of funding that is going to student scholarships and different different, after school programs. I think there were a couple of grants that went towards sending kids to different programs. So it is all going back towards kids. And, off the top of my head, I don't know the numbers, but I would imagine, given some of the things we've been improving through that money is going back towards kids. Maybe not 25,000 to one kid, but it's coming out on the other side to support the school.
I understand. The fire companies, I understand what they're for, but when we talk about 25,000 GAF, I'm just trying to see what we're getting back in return.
Yeah, why don't I reach out to Todd and we can generate
because if we're not
information to share with the board.
If we're not getting the money back, or if we're giving 25 grand and we're getting 20 back, then why aren't we just funding them ourselves?
I think it's a really fair question. I run into Todd from time to time from the foundation. He would love to be invited to share all the good things that they're doing for the school district. So I think it's just a simple invitation. He would love to come in person and share with you. I do think we benefit much more than the $25,000 that we invest. Just in my casual conversations with him. I would just say I was recently at a choral concert for our 4th through 12th grade kids at the high school. I think it looked like there was like 1,000 kids up there on the stage. I think it was probably closer to 300, 350 or whatever. And that was fantastic. And I do know that there's a member of the community that shows up, usually right before budget time, who thinks that maybe we should cut back on music teachers and the music program. And I would be adamantly against that based upon what I witnessed recently. Thank you.
I do have one more quick question, which may not be totally answerable because it's not a clear question, but I had asked last time about the security of federal funding that's coming, and I'm just curious, you seemed to not be concerned about that, which is great. I think it would help to know a little bit about where that funding is coming from, given all of the kind of upheaval that's happening with the Department of Ed.
Yes, exactly. The federal funding for 25-26 school year has not been on the chopping block. It had indicated to us, all the resources that we have indicated that the 25-26 year, no need to worry about it. For us, on just general fund operations, if we needed to, that would be another $1 million that we would need to supply. And that doesn't include food service programs. So at this particular point, I'm proceeding as if we're obtaining those federal funds for the 25-26 year. And from all indication sources, it indicated that the 26-27 school year is where we need to worry with it. So it's on the horizon. Where that leads us, it's yet to be known.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Are there any additional questions?
I have some.
Michelle?
Belinda, have you gotten any new budget or anything from ACTI?
A new budget as in terms of for their 25-26 school year?
Yes.
I have not received it yet, no.
Okay, well, and I was asking because I was at the meeting on the 26th, and Mr. Eckenrode indicated, he went over his budget at that meeting, and he indicated that participating districts would share an increase of 9.82% increase to what we would pay ACTI for our students.
I think we're expecting that the first meeting in May, I think is what I was told.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, because he was saying that we were looking at an increase. It was like $119,000 is what I wrote down.
Yeah, they'll probably have a better idea. I believe that they're currently negotiating their contract, so the numbers will become more real once the contract's settled, I think.
Well, I know that his contract, he is going to stay, and his contract is going to be like for $150,000, but they were looking at finding a principal position that's going to cost us between $85,000 to $90,000 for that position. And this is directly from that meeting. I'm not making this up. This is what they told us.
Yeah, we'll see what budget they present to us to share with our board.
All right. I know that he also said that he would probably make his rounds of some different districts and go over what they do, what it costs, give us a whole overview again of what ACTI does. And one other question, is there any chance of renegotiating any of the administrative contracts to help with the budget at all?
Not individually. Our Act 93 members have an Act 93 agreement that the board approves, and it usually lasts it's usually a 3-year agreement or so. It was extended this current year because it wasn't renegotiated last spring, as the board was still engaged in negotiating a collective bargaining agreement with our teachers. So as the Act 93 agreement is how benefits and compensation are created for the Act 93 group, it wouldn't be done on like an individual basis with individual people.
Any other questions further to the budget? All right, well.
Thank you,
there
Belinda.
are. Let me know. Thank you.
That brings us to the citizens' participation portion of our meeting. Mike?
So we have 3 speakers this evening. Our first speaker is going to be Ms. Holly Fox and Lawrence Plink.
This just moves. Sorry. My arm shrunk. Good evening. My name is Holly Fox. This is my husband, Larry Plank. We are both alumni, never mind how long ago, of Gettysburg School District, and currently residents. We live in close proximity to the high school at 1290 Old Harrisburg Road, and we are here tonight to speak to you briefly regarding your agenda item 7.2, High School Campus Asphalt Trail Proposal along Boyd School Road. It is being proposed to you by Sol America on behalf of Adams Miller Solar Development. If approved, this project will be located directly across from the high school on Boyd School Road and directly adjacent to our property. Please indulge me for a little history just for context for you. As you may or may not be aware in the community, we are opposing this project for the fact that it is a deficient plan and in our legal and engineering team's professional opinions should not have been conditionally approved by Strabane Township. Larry and I have hired 2 independent engineers to review this application. Neither are affiliated professionally or personally with the other. Mr. Paul Apresti, professional engineer and professional land surveyor and certified in hydrology, and Mr. Bruce Haig, professional engineer who has had extensive experience in stormwater design and solar array reviews. Of note, both engineers have arrived at the same conclusion in terms of deficiencies in this plan as they pertain not just to the project in and of itself, but in terms of how it would negatively impact Gettysburg Area School District property. With that said, please be assured, I have served on Gettysburg School Board myself, so we are both well aware of what your public duties and responsibilities are and what they do and do not entail. We are not in any way encouraging the district to take a stance of either support or opposition to this project as a whole. That is not your responsibility or obligation. However, we do implore you that it is your responsibility to make responsible and informed decisions on any facility or maintenance project that would directly impact your land, facilities, and use of such. In addition to the sidewalk proposal that is being presented to you this evening, we would also appreciate your deliberation on materials that we have already presented to the district regarding the potential stormwater concerns that would directly impact your property at the high school. Additionally, we would be happy to submit our independent engineers' responses to the solar glare and sound studies performed on behalf of Sol America and Adams Miller Solar Development. In the spirit of complete transparency, we would like to inform you that together with our attorney, we have submitted a land use appeal to the Court of Pennsylvania today regarding our opposition to this matter that contains a detailed description of our grounds for appeal. We are happy to provide that information to you if requested. Our main point of bringing this to your attention is to assure you that you have time to research, discuss, and respond on your agenda item presented before you this evening, and our comments if you desire. We respect that your end objective with this and any decision you make is with the end goal of what is in the best interests of the district. In conclusion, please know that Larry, myself, together with any member of our legal and engineering team, are available to any of you should you have an additional question. And I thank you. I thank you for your time and consideration. I thank your facilities committee who had us in last month, well, allowed us to sit in last month. And I thank Mr. Josh Reynolds for hearing our concerns. Have a nice evening.
Holly, thank you, and we don't typically respond after unless we can answer the question. I know this is going to be a part of an informational item, and it's been discussed at least with me, so I'm not sure if you're staying to hear that type of discussion, but you are correct, and I'm glad that you noted the district doesn't have a stance as to whether it's permitted or not permitted. I think the sole thing that you'll hear tonight is whether or not the district is going to accept an offer down the road if it was actually ultimately accepted by Strabane on the sidewalk. But if you're going to be here, you'll hear that presentation.
All right.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Ms. Kathy Griffin, regarding Act 1.
Hi, and good evening. I'm Kathy Griffin, a resident and a taxpayer. I know you have several important issues on the agenda tonight, and one is the approval of the coaches. I want to first thank everyone that came to these meetings and speaking on behalf of the football coach. Thank you for your support from the parents, the coaches, the players, and especially the alumni that sent emails and texts and so forth. You speaking up have made a difference, and we need more of this at every meeting. My issues and concerns tonight are ACTI. When it comes time to tonight's agenda for the Gettysburg Area School District Rep to report an update on ACTI, I have a question that needs addressed. But first, I would like to state that I am 100% for ACTI. I want to see them grow and add more programs for the students. I saw today that the criminal justice class took first place in their competition that they did. These type of achievements need to continue. There's been a lot going on with ACTI the past several months, and we need to get more transparency for the taxpayers and the board members. I have been listening for some time now to several of the school board reps with their reports. I have learned more in detail with the functions of ACTI by going to the ACTI meetings. There are reps from each school district that go to these meetings to represent each school district and are not bringing the information back to the whole board as an entirety. I have contacted several board members, and in these 5 districts, they have at times no knowledge of what is going on. I know more at times than what they do. And some other issues is, to date, if I'm correct with this, ACTI still does not have a working contract with the teachers. I'm wondering what is going on with that. The teachers bend over backwards for these students, and they deserve better. I'm hoping that they do not lose good teachers over this delay. Also, concerns of the Gettysburg Times article that was brought up also about the Fairfield School District in reference to the superintendent. It always seems like it was a rush for ACTI to get things approved with the land and so forth. And for the superintendent that also serves as a superintendent of record for ACTI to make a statement, quote, anything that happens with the ACTI expansion to me is a good 5-6 years down the road by the time the land is purchased, permits, facilities, etc. It is great that Fairfield is bringing more programs back and adding programs for the students. It's well needed. But this statement does not line up with the push that I hear at ACTI. Now, the question that I have that I would like to be addressed tonight is, please elaborate on a statement that has been going around some time now at Gettysburg School District and other boards, that Gettysburg wants their building back for ACTI, and that is why for the rush for the land. If this is a rumor, stop it. If there are facts or truth, please be transparent. I have contacted several with authority to give me the answer and find no truth to this, but others continue making the statement at the board and other board meetings on record. Your help and transparency would be greatly appreciated. The schools are hedging on doing tax increases at ACTI, hence Littlestown, that put a delay on their 1% increase. I, like others, want to help with the achievement of ACTI and do not want to see it hurt in any way. but do not want to see taxes go up when we do not have the information, the transparency. There are students that will be turned down because all seats are full. I believe in tech schools over college at the present time. These trades are needed. Thank you.
Ma'am, if you can, 1 second.
Sure.
Like we said, we typically don't do that, but
Okay.
I'll answer for myself. I've not heard that rumor. I don't believe it to be true. It certainly would have been coming up at some point in building and finance. To my knowledge, that hasn't even happened. We do have an ACTI representative. But as for the transparency and stuff, I would just say they're an autonomous board. They act on their own, and they come back and look to the districts that are participating. Whether I agree or don't agree is immaterial at this point. But we have one representative on that board. But to answer your one question you did ask, I'm not aware of that.
Okay. It's been going on. I've asked different people, and it's still continued being said on open record at one of the other school boards. So.
And I've actually even said that at this meeting a couple times, that there's no pressing issue for our district in terms of use for that facility. Would we use it when ACTI vacates the property? Absolutely, but we're not. But the impetus for getting something done isn't to relieve our space at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Our last speaker is Ms. Justine Sick.
Good evening. I am here tonight just to say that I am excited for the HR recommendations that we see on the agenda. We have a lot of people here in support of the agenda item, hoping for a positive outcome. I look forward to attending the policy meeting tomorrow in hopes of procedural changes coming forward, and hopefully at the next school board meeting, winter coaches can be approved at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to routine approvals this evening. I had a request from a board member to separate 5.7. So I will entertain a motion on 5.1 through 5.6. For the record, 5.1 is the agenda. 5.2 is the regular board minutes March 3rd. 5.3 is regular board minutes March 18th. 5.4 is approval of a confidential student agreement. 5.5 is the Jacoby transportation drivers. And 5.6 is our graduating seniors. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, from all my years here, those are the ones that are graduating early. Is that correct, Mr. Lusk? Congratulations to them. May I have a motion for 5.1 through 5.6?
So moved.
Second.
Or a question on the motion? Hearing none, roll call. Al?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The next routine approval item is 5.7. It's the HR, Human Resources recommendation. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Do I have a question on the motion? Hearing none, roll call. Jeremy?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Cindy?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Just on that item, and we do have some attendance of people here, reminds me somewhat similar of COVID and stuff. I'm thankful for the board and everybody to let the process work out. A lot of stuff can't be said, and it appears it's not transparent. I can tell you that was not the case. And congratulations to those coaches. And to answer Ms. Sig, the process, I believe, is going back through policy within the timeline of the, help me, Mike, the timeline of the surveys coming back. That's the anticipated goal of the board.
That's correct.
There are no items for board action. Informational items. The first one is the high school greenhouse renovations. Who's going to step forward on that? Welcome.
Thank you. Basically, the greenhouse at the high school is in disrepair, for lack of a better word. The UV rays have destroyed the panels on the side and the roof. So I was approached by the ag teachers if we could do something about it. So I wrangled some numbers, and basically what the plan is to replace all the polycarbonate on all the sides, with the exception of the small one they want to use for animals. So that's going to be a sheet metal siding and roof. It would also include phone remote controls on the new controllers for the HVAC in the greenhouse, as well as shade system and an irrigation system. That total for just that work is $64,483, and then they've also requested the floor, which is a disjointed combination of materials, to be brought to concrete slab with the trench drains in it, and that work would be $68,261. The total is $132,744. It's about 2 to 3 weeks for the concrete work, and then about 4 to 5 days for the siding, which could all be accomplished over the summer rather easily.
Does the board have any questions?
I just have a quick question.
Oh, Michelle, go ahead.
Is there any chance any of our kids from buildings and trades can help do any of this work? Or is it?
Logistically, I mean, hypothetically it could happen, but logistically it's kind of a nightmare to work them into the schedule over the summer. I would not be opposed to entertaining that, but I would have to get clearance from all the subcontractors involved.
Any additional? 7.2, the high school campus asphalt trail proposal along Boyd School Road. Josh?
Yeah, thank you. I'll pick up where Holly Fox left off. Good lead in. Thank you very much. I'm going to try to put as much information into a short blurb and keep it as clear and concise as I can. So as Holly mentioned, on the north side of Boyd School Road, you can see on the aerial shot up there, that's where Solar America is proposing the solar farm. Currently, the proposal from Solar America, the developer, to the school is to have them essentially donate a sidewalk, which is a requirement of theirs to meet Strabane Township's requirements to do the development of the project. They want to, instead of installing the sidewalk on their side of Boyd School Road, they want to install it on our side and essentially donate it, at which point we would take over maintenance and operation of it, if you will. It's been nothing, hasn't gone any further than a simple conversation, and at this point it sounds like the project itself is in flux. And just to be clear, the requirement on the Solar America to put the sidewalk in is strictly because they're building the solar farm. If the solar farm is not approved, then all this is for naught. It's a moot point. In terms of, I'll say an administrative recommendation, I'll just not necessarily make a recommendation, but provide some background from my perspective, facilities management perspective. It's always nice to get something for free, and of course, we would approve any design and the plans to make sure we're getting a quality product and we're not going to be burdened or overburdened, should I say, with something that's shoddy construction, meaning it'll have some staying power and would be a benefit, long term. But with that said, there comes, some cons with the pros. The pro, obviously, we don't have to pay for the sidewalk. The cons, we're going to need to maintain it. We would need to repair it if there's any damages. And then there's also a liability component with essentially it's a sidewalk from nowhere to nowhere. And to clarify that, where you see the yellow lines end, that is where the sidewalk that they're providing ends, and then it turns to grass. So with that said, I mean, obviously there's some foot traffic that comes to and from the high school along Boyd School. It's not a lot. I don't have numbers, but it's not a lot. But it's almost like it enters into a little bit of attractive nuisance type territory that we're leading people to, on a path to no path, or a path to nowhere, so to speak. So this was just kind of kicked around, discussed 3-4 times over the last, I would say, 4 to 6 months. And we just felt it appropriate at the F&F committee level to bring it to the board level to just provide it for information so you folks were aware of what the offer was and at a high level what the pros were, what the cons were. And in closing, what I would like to say is within Strabane Township, which this is typical of municipalities these days, that they have requirements for installation of curb and gutter when you do development. So what would trigger a requirement on the school district to put in this sidewalk as well as a portion of sidewalk on Old Harrisburg Pike would be if we were to trigger quote-unquote land development. And what triggers land development in conversation with the township engineer is if we were to build any structure, any permanent structure over 1,000 square foot or over, we would trigger land development. So we could put in a very large concession stand or a set of bleachers, and then all of a sudden, we would be on the hook for putting in sidewalk in the yellow area, as well as sidewalk, which would probably be 50% of that yellow length along Old Harrisburg Pike, to the extent that probably the sidewalk would cost more than what the structure was that we were putting in. Now, with that said, we don't have any plans, at least within any of my plans in the 5-year outlook, to do anything to that extent, the permanent structure, 1,000 square foot or over, at the high school that would trigger the requirement for sidewalk and curb and gutter. So, tried to keep that short, but it went a little longer than what I wanted, so.
Josh, just to follow up, I appreciate your presentation, but I think I can summarize this, and I know it's just an informational item. And if I'm wrong on my summary, stop me. Just yell. They want to put a solar plan in. Right now, it could be tied up in the court. Can be some downsides. The district has no say-so whether it goes or it doesn't go. Am I right so far?
As far as the approval of the project, yes.
So in a part of that, they're offering us this caveat. We're going to put in a sidewalk that goes nowhere. We're going to do that for you because you potentially 10 years down the road want to put a structure on there and you won't want to incur the cost of putting a sidewalk, correct?
That's correct.
In those 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, the district is incurring the cost and liability with the sidewalk out there, meaning we have frost freeze, we have snow removal, we have ice removal. So now we're using district employees to care for a sidewalk that goes nowhere.
That's correct.
I thank you.
Not to mention the liability factor.
Thanks, Josh.
And Josh, also, it's I believe it's true that if the district wouldn't accept the offer of a sidewalk, they would still have to put a sidewalk on the other side of Boyd School Road, correct?
They're required to put in sidewalk. I have seen it, and it was loosely discussed that Strabane Township would entertain installation of that same lineal footage of sidewalk, but yet somewhere else within the township. They would still need to meet their obligation, but with that said, there's obviously recognition by all parties involved that it doesn't really make much sense to put a sidewalk there, regardless of whether it's on their side or our side.
Sounds like their problem. Any additional questions? 7.3, the contract for site log IQ for commissioning agent services at Lincoln Elementary School.
That's mine as well, Kenny.
Thank you, Josh.
A couple months ago, you folks had voted to move forward to procure proposals for commissioning services. And with that, I went ahead and did that. So we received proposals a couple of weeks ago from 3 different firms for commissioning services. Myself, Kevin Kritzberg, and Tom Fortnum, we were the review committee, and we went down through a criteria, evaluating price, experience, man hours projected, and just overall quality, location of the firm, to basically rate the different proposals that we got. Obviously, there was quite a bit of weight on meeting, or the price to meet our budget, right? So with that said, bringing forth for information discussion, the administrative recommendation to go with SiteLogic IQ in the amount of $42,230. And they were also number one, not just because of price, but they were overall the top ranked out of the 3 proposals that we received. I'll just leave it at that. If there's any questions relative, if you want me to recap why we're proposing commissioning services or anything of that nature, I can go ahead and do that. But I can say that they've got a lot of experience in schools, and they do have a PE on staff who will lead the charge. And the individual the tech that will be on site is very close, local individual that has an engineering degree. So they seem to be holistically a real good fit for what we're looking for.
Thank you, Josh. Board committee reports, are there any this evening? Jason, program reports?
Just a couple calendar reminders. Next board meeting is a Tuesday, April 22nd, and there is no school the 17th, 18th, or 21st for spring break.
I was not at the last ACTI meeting. I tried to get a rundown. And to answer some questions, ACTI is trying to look at what it looks like to expand ACTI. There's been nothing, no plans, there's no anything. We don't even have any land. Nothing has been brought to us just yet to even look at. Therefore, we don't know exactly what it would cost. Until we have some numbers or do we have a plan put together, I don't have anything as far as numbers to bring to the board. Once we start down that path, or there's some, at least the possibility of land acquisition or talks of it, then the board will be informed on that as well. Nobody has ever said that they need to get ACTI out of that building, just as you said, Kenny. And we're not under any pressure from that. They are talking about hiring another principal position to help alleviate. They're very understaffed. The 2 girls that are out there are just worked to death. And to help the director along, if we're ever going to try to expand ACTI, to leave some stress off of him and to help with that office work and the day-to-day stuff within the school, they are going to have to look at hiring somebody else. So as that moves forward, I will keep you up to speed on that as well. But other than that, that's kind of it at the moment.
Thank you.
Unless, Michelle, there's something else you have any questions? You want me to clarify anything?
Okay, before I take a motion for adjournment, our next meeting is April 22nd. I just be remiss, and I'll speak for myself. I want to thank the young athletes that have showed up at different board meetings, especially this evening. I wasn't here at the last meeting. I can't comment. I appreciate your involvement in here, and I would just reiterate, hopefully your season gets going. The camps that were canceled, not by the administration or by whoever, gets back in place. The weight room's open. And I speak, at least for board members that I spoke to, the process worked. It's a process they wanted to start a long time ago. It worked. They hired a recommended coach, and I think everyone walks out of here, head held high. Unfortunately, in the process, some nasty stuff was done and said, but, you move on. It's a difficult position that each of these board members find themselves in. One thing I can always say in my 7.5 years, if I don't get a chance to reiterate it here again, is they've always followed the recommendation. So may I have a motion to adjourn? We stand adjourned.